हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Hari Om friends, of behalf of Param Vedanta, welcome to the 67th session of Gita, a gift, Gita for inner freedom and transformation. We begin today the 12th chapter called Bhakti Yoga. The 12th chapter removes many confusions regarding Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti Yoga Phalam. Swami Paramathananda ji says it's not a standalone sadhana. All levels of sadhana, karma yoga, upasana yoga, and jnana yoga must be practiced in the atmosphere of Ishvara Bhakti. Else, these sadhanas cannot be called sadhanas for yoga. There is much to be learned and take away from this chapter, so keep tuned in. Our moderator for the day is Srimati Panagaji. Pranams to her and today's speakers, Dr. Komal, Dr. Vikram Kekatpure, Srimati Vidya Prabhu, and Shri Shiv Kumarji. Over to you, Panaga.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Namaste friends. Today we begin a new chapter, Bhakti Yoga. It is one of the shortest chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, containing only 20 verses. But still, Sri Krishna, being the greatest Acharya, he gives the entire Vedic teaching in just these 20 chapters, not just of the Bhagavad Gita, but also the entire Vedas. This chapter, because of its short number of shlokas, is also learnt by heart for chanting. It is the penultimate chapter in the Madhyama Shatkam. So when we look at this table here, we have a bird's eye view of our spiritual journey through the Gita. We know that the Bhagavad Gita is moksha shastra, and if we base it on the Mahavakya of Tattvam Asi, or you are that, the three shatkams consisting of 6 chapters each can have these following features. It is a very simplified version of what the Bhagavad Gita actually is, but it gives a basic structure and it helps seekers to understand where they are in their spiritual sadhana. In the Prathama Shatkam, the focus is on the Tvam Padartha, that is the Jivatma, that is you, where Lord Krishna very clearly and unequivocally states in the 2nd chapter itself that you are not this limited Deha, Mana, Buddhi, who is struggling through this world, but you are the eternal nirguna Atma, the consciousness, the Satchidananda Atma, existence, consciousness, and bliss. In the primary sadhana in the Prathama Shatkam is Karma Yoga, and our bhakti is Ekarupa Bhakti, because we are born and we grow up, especially in Hinduism, learning to worship one form of the god, whichever form it may be, or we may even be worshipping many gods, but all these forms have one form. That is Ekarupa Bhakti in the Prathama Shatkam. Then in the Madhyama Shatkam, the focus is on the Tat Padartha, that is Ishvara or God, where Sri Krishna tells us actually who or what is God. here, and that's why Madhyama Shatkam is dedicated to Ishvara. The sadhana here is Upasana Yoga, which is a higher level of sadhana. And we see again what a great Acharya Sri Krishna is, because he starts off with Karma Yoga, because all of us are doing actions. Um, some we like, some we don't like, but we have to act and we are acting. So he starts off with first fine tuning our actions, and then he moves on to the level of the mind, which is higher, which needs a lot of preparation actually. And then we come to the final sadhana, which is Gnana Yoga, that is in the Charama Shatkam. Again, the Bhakti in the Madhyama Shatkam is Vishwarupa Bhakti or Aneka Rupa Bhakti, which is an expansion of our Bhakti. Then in the Charama Shatkam, mm, Lord Krishna gives us, especially in the 13th chapter, which is the crux of the Gnana Yoga. And then following that, we have a lot of values and an understanding of the three gunas and other aspects which will establish our understanding of ourselves and the world. Then, of course, the sadhana is Gnana Yoga, and our bhakti transcends to Arupa Bhakti or Nirguna Bhakti. We will go through each of these in a little detail. So, the Prathama Shatkam, as I mentioned, is Ekarupa Bhakti to a Paroksha Lord. So, we have the deity in front of us or the idol, but we know that the deity is a mere symbol of the actual God. So, we are invoking that higher force who lives in a distant land in that idol in front of us, and we offer our prayers and worship him. And here we know that this higher God is the creator of the universe. So the Bhagavad Gita starts off with the Arjuna Vishada Yoga, where Arjuna is deeply in distress and he's not able to pick up his bow and arrow to fight. And then he surrenders to Krishna, and that's when Krishna begins his teaching in the Sankhya Yoga, which is the entire summary of the Gita. Then we have the third chapter, which is Karma Yoga, which is what we're going to just learn about, or no, not learn about, just revise, because it has been quite a few months since we studied the third chapter. Then we have chapter 4 and 5, which is Gnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga and Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So we can see that the entire Prathama Shatkam is trying to emphasize Karma Yoga and also through Gnanam. And then in the sixth chapter, the Lord is preparing us for Upasana Yoga or the Madhyama Shatkam, where we have to learn how to meditate. So that's how Sri Krishna has very systematically structured the Bhagavad Gita and our spiritual learning. So Karma Yoga is right action with the right attitude. What are right action? So in the Tattva Bodha, we learn that there are three types of actions. That the first, the highest, is Uttama. They are the sattvic actions, Nishkama Karma. They are selfless actions done with an intention of benefiting a large number of people. And because they are done with this expanded mindset, it leads to spiritual growth. The second is Madhyama Karma, that is the Rajasic Karma, Sakama Karma, where we are acting with our own selfish interests, and these actions will benefit only me and very few others, like my family and friends. Because this is done with a very limited mindset, it leads to spiritual stagnation. The third and the worst is adhama karma or tamasic karma, where we are extremely selfish, so much so that we will harm others on our way to achieve our selfish ends. Here, the only beneficiary is me. And because it is done with an immoral mind, it will lead to my to my spiritual downfall. So, what is right action? It is maximizing our sattvic actions minimizing our rajasic actions and completely eliminating any tamasic action. So this is right action. Now, only the right attitude will make it karma yoga. So, the right attitude comes from sincerely performing the right actions as an offering to the Lord, Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, and accepting every result with Ishvara Prasada Buddhi. Here, whether the results are favorable or unfavorable, we still accept it. Favorable results we receive with humility, not claiming that I did it and I achieved this, but it is as a blessing of the Lord. Unfavorable results are received without criticism or resistance because we know that whatever results we get are a combined phalam of our current and past actions. So when we perform these actions as an offering to the Lord, so our sankalpa is only to do our duty sincerely. We do it to the best of our ability, and whatever be the result, our bhakti is so deep that we are able to accept the results with equanimity. And this is samatvam yoga uchyate. This equanimity of mind is what we are trying to achieve through karma yoga. In this bhakti yoga, Lord Krishna divides karma yoga only into two levels. The first is sakama karma anushtanam, that is, actions are done for our materialistic, selfish desires, but they are done through legitimate methods. So I'm not doing anything unjust, I'm not hurting anyone else, but I am still serving my own goals. But when they bear fruit, we consider them as blessings from the Lord. We don't claim full credit for it. We understand that God has been kind and blessed us with these fruits. And when we continually accept results as blessings from the Lord, our mind becomes purer. And then we begin thinking that uh, should I spend all my life just looking after or making more money for me and my family, my children, my grandchildren? Or can I serve society with all the resources that I have? So our mind expands, and this leads us to the next stage of karma yoga, that is nishkama karma anushtanam. So first we learn how to accept the results as Ishvara Prasada, and next we learn to offer all our actions as Ishvara Arpana. So now we have the desire to not just, now we know that our selfish goals will anyway be met, but I have a desire to give, to do more for society, whether I'm giving my time, knowledge, resources, but I do it with an expanded mindset. And they are all dedicated to the Lord because I have enough. I have contentment, and I still have and God has still blessed me with the energy to work. So I work, but without selfish motives now. And these duties are performed sincerely. And even mundane tasks, they go from being must do or I have to do this to I'm happy to do it. So this attitudinal change in our actions, all our actions will more or less uh, remain the same when we graduate from sakama to nishkama, but the attitude in which we do them, that transforms the phalam that we are going to get. That makes it karma yoga. Then we come to the madhyama shatkam, which is the knowledge of God. The Madhyama Shatkam starts off with Gnana Vijnana Yoga, where, as the title itself suggests, oh, Lord Krishna wants us to know who is God, where is He, how is He to look at, uh, how do I reach Him. So here he tells us in chapter 7 that He is not only the consciousness principle that enlivens this entire world, but He is also the material principle. So He is he's not only the intelligent cause but also the material cause. So whatever we're seeing around us is a manifestation of God. This begins the process of divinization of the world. Chapter 8 is what we call the odd one out chapter. But this chapter just reassures us that no matter where we reach in this lifetime in our spiritual sadhana, Lord Krishna will bless us with a suitable rebirth so we can continue where we left off. Then again, we come to chapter 9, which is where Lord Krishna tells us that this is the royal knowledge and it is very rare, Rajaguhya, and though it is known, it is still a secret. And again, Lord Krishna tells us that this whole creation is my manifestation only. And then Arjuna asked the question in when we come to Vibhuti Yoga, that is the chapter of the Lord's glories. He says this creation is so vast, it's infinite. How can I um, meditate upon everything? And then he asked Krishna to give him a concrete list of symbols or forms to meditate upon. And this again begins our expansion of bhakti. This is Vibhuti Yoga, and then Lord Krishna ends the Vibhuti Yoga by saying that whatever I have listed, and he gives a very long list, and he ends by saying that these are just an infinitesimal part of my glories. So now Arjuna wants to know his infinite, all encompassing form, and that's when we reach the Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, which we have just studied. And now finally we are in the Bhakti Yoga. So as we can see from the Prathama Shatkam, where we start off with Karma Yoga. So there is Ishvara Prasada Buddhi, Ishvara Arpana Bhavana. So all through any sadhana, only when it is done with God in mind, with devotion, only then it becomes a yoga, or only then it becomes a spiritual sadhana. And through the Madhyama Shatkam, Lord Krishna wants to build and intensify Arjuna's bhakti. So, in the Upasana Yoga Bhakti, that is Ishvara Dhyanam, we learn that meditation upon God is primarily a mental activity. To go to Gnana Yoga, it's because it is a tougher sadhana. We need to train our mind to turn inwards from the extroverted mind, which was engaged, constantly engaged in action. It turns inwards, spends more time on meditation upon God. God becomes pratyaksha from creator to creation, as we just um, heard. And the types of upasana are manasa japa, puja, and parayana, where by doing this many times while doing actions, we may be chanting a prayer, but our mind can be somewhere else. So during upasana, we force our mind to concentrate on the Lord's form or the Lord's name or a prayer. And that's how we build, how we learn to control our mind. And here in Bhakti Yoga, Lord Krishna gives us two levels of Upasana Yoga Bhakti, that is Ekarupa Ishvara Dhyanam, and what that's how we start off with concentrating our mind. Like in the Vibhuti Yoga, we have certain symbols and we meditate upon them. Then in the Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, we learn to perceive the inherent divinity in everything we see. That is only the Divya Chakshu that Lord Krishna blesses Arjuna with. So, what before we move on to Bhakti Yoga proper, let us just see the benefits of Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, as Swami Paramarthananda ji has listed. The first is Dvesha Parihara. We know that everything that we see now in the world is a manifestation of the God. There is no material that is not Ishvara, that has not come out of him. So when everything and everyone exists due to the Lord's divinity only, we cannot have any dvesha towards anyone. That is the first benefit. Second is amanitvam, or humility. We know that any glory that we see in this world, whether it is the Himalayas, whether it is the beautiful rivers, or any extraordinary talent in people, or any talent that I have, any capacity that I have, all of it belongs to the Lord only. So there is humility in my actions, humility in any achievement of mine. And everything now is sacred. As we saw, everything is divine, and there is nothing sacred, and there is no differentiation now between sacred and secular. So even when I come out of the God's room, I am still anchored in bhakti. And now I have respect for all forms of worship, whether it is other religions or different types in my own religion, different sects. I know that all of them are worshipping the same higher force. And this leads to a complete expansion of the mind. There is a drastic reduction in our raga and dvesha, a reduction in ahankara and mamakara. So our mind is mature and stable to prepare for Gnana Yoga. So to sum up, Bhakti Yoga is the entire range of spiritual sadhanas. Spirituality begins with bhakti. First is Karma Yoga, level 1, that is Ishvara Prasada Buddhi, where we accept any result as the Lord's blessings. Then in level 2, we offer our actions, and these actions are done with, with a larger purpose, much more than my own selfish needs. I now want, want to use whatever energy I have to benefit a larger number of people. Then we come to Upasana Yoga, that is in the Madhyama Shatkam, where it is Ekarupa Upasana. Then we graduate to Vishwarupa Upasana, and finally to Gnana Yoga, where it is Rupa Bhakti. Gnana Yoga, again, it has 3 levels, as we all know, that is Shravanam, where we consistently and systematically listen to our scriptures from our Guru. And then we have Mananam, where we're able to intellectually resolve all doubts that we have about the teaching. And finally, Nididhyasanam, that is Vedantic meditation, where we allow this teaching to percolate into our subconscious and transform all our thought, words, and deeds. So bhakti begins with karma yoga and culminates in moksha. This is bhakti yoga. So if people tell there are different paths to liberation, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, gnana yoga, Lord Krishna refutes all of them, and he tells us that there is no choice that we have between choosing any of these sadhanas. All of them have to be done as in these levels, and bhakti is the atmosphere, is the very basis on which all of these sadhanas are done. And Sri Krishna also tells us that all bhaktas are virtuous, whether they are, as we saw, that Lord Krishna began with people who are working for their own selfish desires, but he still values them because they know that there is a higher force called God, and then they use God as a means for material growth, and then they use the world as a means for spiritual growth. And with each stage, our duration of remembering God increases, the mind becomes more refined, our bhakti deepens and expands. With that, we enter the first verse of the Bhakti Yoga. I invite Dr. Komal sir to please explain this verse. Dr. Komal, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We're seeing the first verse of 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga. Arjuna Uvacha Evam Satata Yukta E Bhakta Stvam Paryupasate E Cha Api Aksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittama. Arjuna poses a question here. The chapter begins with a question. And this question is based on the previous teaching. Such a question, Swamiji says, is called Anuprashna. It's not an independent question, but it's a kind of question added to the previous teaching to get clarity. So in this question, Arjuna asks, is Saguna Bhakta superior or is Nirguna Bhakta superior? The one who is associated with Saguna Ishvara and the one who is committed to Nirguna Ishvara. Now, with all the teachings he has gone through in the first 11 chapters, now Arjuna has consolidated his doubts into which is the better way, which is the better way to be, better yogi to be, better spiritual sadhaka to be, whether it is a Saguna Bhakta or as a Nirguna Bhakta. How do Saguna Bhaktas meditate? Satata Yukta, with constant commitment, sincerely, steadfastly. There are some people who meditate upon Saguna Ishvara. And what type of Saguna Ishvara we have to be very clear here, because we have seen Ekarupa Ishvara and Anekarupa Saguna Ishvara. Both are Saguna. So what is just described, what is Arjuna referring to, is the latter part of the 11th chapter where we saw Vishwarupa Ishvara, Aneka Rupa Ishvara, that is the Lord as the entire cosmos itself, as it is described in Purusha Suktam or Sri Rudram, where the Lord is taken as entire Vishwarupa, that is Aneka Rupa. So that is one kind of Saguna Bhakta. So that is one category. And then Arjuna introduces a second category here called Nirguna Bhakta in the next line. Echa api. There are some other people. What do? They meditate on avyaktam, aksharam paryupasate. So what do? So because this Akshara Ishvara is Nirguna Brahma, Avyakta, that attributeless Ishvara is not perceptible to any sense organ. Because if the Lord is not there, eyes cannot see, if there is no sound, no music, then what do we meditate upon? So that's a difficult path. We have to, as an extension of our this thought process, we should also think that if Nirguna Brahma is not objectifiable to meditate upon, how can they meditate upon? What do they meditate upon? There is only one way of meditation left to them, because nothing else is attributeless. What is that only thing left? If there is nothing around which can be attributed to, everything is attributeless, then what remains? Swamiji points out that there is only one method. Only one thing remains is yourself. Yourself, the subject, the meditator, is the only thing which will be left when you negate attributes of everything around you. So Nirguna Brahma Upasana is a meditation upon the meditator. It is Atma Dhyanam alone. So this is the second category which Arjuna is considering, because Krishna has highlighted this Avyakta Upasana. So Akshara Upasana in earlier chapters. So a shrewd Arjuna, a good student Arjuna, has learned that these are the two major groups which I have to get clarity upon. Because just now he has seen Vishwarupa, and he has been told about Avyak, it's not Rupa, Avyakta aspect of Brahma. So Arjuna has a valid question here, which is the better way? So which is whether it is the meditator who meditates on Vishwarupa Saguna Upasaka or the Nirguna Brahma Upasaka. So now it is, as we see in the next slide, it's like a question asked by a high school student. In the next slide, we see these two pictures where a high school student, if he gets a valid question for him, he aspires to be a good doctor who is very good in his profession. So but he is still in high school. So the pathway for him is to sit for entrance test, study hard, everything, all the books, what is available, and then become a doctor and then practice as a good doctor. So now if he asks the question, to become a good doctor, should he be studying for entrance examination, or should he concentrate on becoming a good doctor? So the question is like that. So Arjuna very tactfully explains that further, the answer to his question, because it's not a valid question actually, because it's a kind of continuum, a step-by-step process. First you have to finish your entrance exam, join medical course, and then become a good doctor. There's no choice, which is that aspect will be highlighted by Krishna in a gradual way, because he should not offend the student, or he should not create more confusion in his student Arjuna. So he tactfully considers this question and gives tactful answers, which we'll be seeing from the next verse. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Komal sir, for that nice explanation and this very apt example. So, actually, Lord Krishna has already explained in the seventh chapter about the four types of bhaktas: the artha, artharthi, jignasu, and gnani. So, Arjuna's question here reflects that he has not connected what Krishna has told earlier uh, before the Vishwarupa Darshana and now after the Vishwarupa Darshana. So the Vishwarupa Darshana is still very, it's very much on his mind right now. And so he asked this question, and Lord Krishna very intelligently gives the answer, which we will see in the next verse. I invite Dr. Vikram Kikatpure sir to please explain 12.2.
Thank you. Hari Om. After listening to glories of Vishwarupa in previous chapter, Arjuna asked Krishna to clarify who is superior among the Vishwarupa Bhakta and Nirguna Brahma Bhakta. In other words, whether one should practice Vishwarupa Bhakti or Nirguna Brahma Bhakti. Shankaracharya ji begins chapter 12 Bhashyam with clarification that Bhakti Yoga is not a separate entity, but Bhakti is integral part of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and even for a Karmi. For Sakama Bhakta, God is a means and not the destination, while Nishkama Bhakta, God is means and also the end. Next slide, please. So this slide summarizes the spiritual path from Karmi to Karma Yoga to Jnana Yoga. A Karmi does Ishta Devata Upasana with materialistic goal in mind. For example, Lakshmi Upasana for getting wealth. The spiritual progress is not the goal. Upasana here is mostly kaik, like puja, vratam, etc. They are Artharthi Bhakta. Next are the Artha Bhaktas, are the ones who seek God to elevate their suffering. Material or spiritual progress is not the goal. When karma is done for spiritual progress with proper attitude and Ishwara Arpana Bhava and Prasada Buddhi, it becomes Karma Yoga. The seeker or Jignasu Bhakta progresses gradually from Ekarupa to Anekarupa to Vishwarupa Bhakti with Kaik, Vachik and Manas Upasana. Chitta Shuddhi and Ekagrata are the goals here and ultimately achieves Jnana Yogyata. Vishwarupa Bhakta may get Krama Mukti. In Jnana Yoga, Nirguna Brahma Bhakta practices Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam as Upasana and meditates on self to achieve moksha or sadhya mukti. What is important to remember here is that bhakti is integral to all. Next slide, please. Now, Arjuna's question is, who is superior between Vishwarupa Upasaka and Nirguna Upasaka? Let's look at Krishna's answer in verse 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vesha Mano Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetaha Te Me Yuktatma Mata. Word by word meaning. My Avesha mana ye mam upasate. There are people who practices meditation focusing on me. Arjuna question, as we saw, is a anuprashna in context of 12th chapter. Hence, mam here means saguna vishwarupa form of Krishna. Nitya yukta, steadfast or ever committed. The bhakta mentioned here is not a off and on bhakta with materialistic desire, but one who has progressed on spiritual path with karma and upasana yoga. There are no selfish desire. Meditates on not on a particular form, but on Vishwarup form of Lord. Paraya Shraddhaye Upetaha. They are endowed with intense faith in Lord. Bhakta has complete faith in Lord. All efforts are for spiritual progress, which Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Prasada Buddhi. Te me yuktatma mataha. Those who practice such saguna dhyanam are indeed superior. Next slide, please. Now, Krishna starts with an intriguing and somewhat confusing reply. The reason is the question itself is incorrect. Saguna and nirguna bhakti cannot be compared, and one cannot be superior to other. The choice can be between things of similar category. There cannot be choice between wearing a shirt or a pant. Choice can be between different types of shirts or pants. Now, Jnana Yogyata is the goal of Saguna Dhyanam or Bhakti, while Moksha is the goal of Nirguna Dhyanam. The means utilized for Jnana Yogyata are karma and upasana, while for Jnana Yoga, for mukti. The seeker has to graduate to Jnana Yogyata to enter Jnana Yoga. Moving from Saguna Jnanam to Nirguna Atma Dhyanam, from Dvaita to Advaita. Therefore, the very premise of Arjun's question is incorrect as these two are not comparable. Next slide, please. Now, question is why Krishna is glorifying Saguna Dhyana. Karma Yogi, Karmi, Karma Yogi, Upasana Yogi all perform Saguna Bhakti. Goals may be different. Saguna Bhakti is Dvaita Bhakti or Dvaita Bhakti of Lord with form with physical attribute. This is easier and relatable for initial seeker. In Gita, Shri Krishna encouraged the seeker to progress from Ishtadevata to Ekarupa to Anekarup to Vishwarupa Upasana. In initial stages, materialistic goals are also allowed as long as there is a realization of gratefulness towards Lord. However, seeker gradually progresses to Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Bhava from Ekarupa to Vishwarupa Dhyanam with only spiritual goals and achieves Jnana Yogyata. Therefore, if we look from a standpoint of Abhakta, Karmi, Karma Yogi, or Ekarupa Bhakta, a steadfast Vishwarupa Bhakta is superior and therefore is being glorified in this verse. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vikram sir, for that nice explanation with uh, very elaborate slides as as a flow chart. So we are able to understand the different stages of bhakti and the different sadhanas. So Lord Krishna, very intelligent Arjuna, because he has already. So what he says, and he still wants to mm, support Arjuna in his understanding of the Gita. So he says that those who worship me at all times, he says they are superior. But as Dr. Vikram sir mentioned, they are both diagonally opposite, Saguna Bhakti and Nirguna Bhakti. It is Saguna Bhakti is the means, Nirguna Bhakti is the end. It is Saguna Bhakti is a sadhanam and Nirguna Bhakti is sadhyam or the culmination of Bhakti Yoga. Saguna Bhakti is Dvaitam, where Lord and you are separate. In Nirguna Bhakti, there is Advaitam, the same consciousness that enlivens you, enlivens this entire world. And there is Bheda in Saguna Bhakti, and here there is Abheda. There is merging what we hear, what we have heard often in other verses of the Gita, where we say that the Gnani merges with Brahman. It is just the dropping of the false notion that we are away from Brahman. At any point of time, we are never away from Brahman. And this understanding is often referred to as merger. So we can conclude with these two lines saying that without Saguna Bhakti, Nirguna Bhakti is impossible, and without Nirguna Bhakti, Saguna Bhakti is incomplete. This is similar to Arjuna's question in the fourth chapter, where I think he asked Krishna whether he should, no, in third chapter, whether he should follow Karma Yoga or Gnana Yoga. And there again, Krishna tells Arjuna that you have to first follow Karma Yoga and then you come to Gnana Yoga. We will now see Lord Krishna's further explanation in verse 12.3. Vidya ma'am, please.
एत्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवम्. Every word in the shloka is an Upanishadic word where Lord Krishna analyzes Akshara Brahma to define the Akshara Upasakas who meditate upon Akshara Brahma. 7 descriptions of Akshara Brahma are given in the shloka, and so it is a Brahma Lakshana shloka. This is in contrast to the earlier shloka, which spoke of Vishwarupa Upasakas. Shastra defines Ishvara at 3 levels. One definition of Ishvara is for the Manda Adhikari is Ekarupa Ishvara, where one worships Rama, Krishna, Durga, etc. Second one is Madhyama Adhikaris, Aneka Rupa Ishvara, Vishwarupa Ishvara. And the third is Uttama Adhikari, Arupa Ishvara. So after going through Shravanam and Mananam, this verse refers to such Upasakas. Now let us take word by word from this first line. Avyaktaha, Sarva Indriya Agocharaha, not perceptible to the senses, which is none other than nirguna Ishvara. Ishvara in his highest form or nature without attributes. Unless one transcends Maya Vesha, one cannot reach Avyaktam. The next word is Sarvagatam, that is all pervading. Achintyam, unobjectifiable by the mind. Mana Agocharam. Anirdeshyam, Vak Agocharam, not perceptible to the speech. All these put together becomes Aprameyaha. We are reminded of the 6th verse of Mundakopanishad here. Yat Tadrishyam, God without form or color, not available for sensory perception. Agrahyam, not available for 5-fold organs of action. Agotram, without an origin, it is beginningless. Avarnam, attributeless. Achakshu Shrotram, beyond perception of jnanendriyas. Chakshu is eyes and Shrotram is ears. Tadapani Padam, Pani here means hands, Padam is legs again. Karmendriyas, meaning Bhagavan is Ashariram. Nityam, eternal. Vibhum, Vibhum here means Vividham Bhavati iti Vibhum, that one which appears as many. One Bhagavan in the form of many. Sarvagatam, all pervading. So Sukshmam, subtlest of the subtle. Tat Avyayam, not subject to degeneration. Bhuta Yonihi, the cause of the entire universe. Dhiraha, the qualified people. Paryupasate, Paripashyanti, they see. So the next question is, if it is not available for mind and sense organs, how can one meditate which is not an object of meditation? Vedanta says, if it cannot be meditated as an object of meditation, meditate upon it as the subject of meditation. Brahman as the very meditator. According to Swami Dayananda Saraswati, meditating on the meditator is Nididhyasanam. Constantly reminding that I am Akshara Brahma, I am Achintyam, I am Anirdeshyam, I am Kutastham. All these words define the meditator. Shankaracharya in his Bhashyam says, Etu, those rare people who have gone through Karma Yoga, Eka Rupa Upasana, Aneka Rupa Upasana, who have gone through Shravanam and Mananam, can only reach this Akshara Brahma. Coming to the second line, Sarvagatam. Sarvagatam, Vyomavat Vyapi. Vyoma means Akashaha. Vyapi means pervading, all pervading like the space. Achintyam, Cha. For this, Shankaracharya gives the meaning as not recollectible or visualizable, as it is the very subject. Aksharam Achintyam Bhavati. Next comes the very important Shastric word Kutastham. For this most debated word, Shankaracharya gives two meanings. First meaning is that Brahman which lends existence to many and the objective world. Tasmin Kute Sthitham. A Maya world which is deceptive, externally attractive but very harmful is Kutam. In that Maya, Brahman is present as the Kutastham, as the witness of Maya, as the very consciousness principle, or as Sakshi Bhav. Brahman is present in the form of existence. When we see Maya is, the isness belongs to Brahman. Second meaning given by Shankaracharya is Kuta, meaning that which remains unshaken. Rashihi means heap. It can be a heap of anything. When anything is in a heap, it cannot be moved from one place to another. According to Bhashyam, Rashi iva sthitam kutastham. Brahman is changeless or motionless like a heap of stone or rock. Next is achalam, meaning that which does not move from one place to another, remaining immovable like a Rashi. Dhruvam, yasmat achalam, tasmat dhruvam, because Brahman is motionless, it is eternal. Dhruvam is equal to Nityam and Nityam is equal to eternal. So all these 7 words in the shloka are adjectives to Aksharam on which one meditates or Paryupasate. Thus a Nirguna Upasaka in the manner of Nididhyasanam, Nirguna Brahma Vritti Pravaha, meaning the thought flow has to be Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Shuddhosmi, Nityosmi, Aham Sarvagatam, Achintyam, etc. Once this is entertained in the thought, it is called dharanam. And when this thought is entertained continuously with breaks in between, is dhyanam. That is the broken flow. The unbroken flow is samadhi. And this samadhi anushtanam, samadhi abhyasa rupa nididhyasanam is akshara upasanam, which is indicated in this most significant verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, that is the 3rd verse. Thank you very much. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Vidya ma'am, for this excellent explanation of this loaded verse. All the words with their Upanishadic meaning so clearly explained. Just for added emphasis, I would like to repeat the auto suggestions of Nididhyasanam that you have mentioned here. It is Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Shuddhosmi, Aham Nityosmi, Aham Sarvagatam, Achintyam. And when this is assimilated in the thought flow, it is called Dharanam. When it is entertained in the thought continuously with breaks in between, it is Dhyanam. And unbroken flow is Samadhi. Thank you very much, ma'am. So this is Gnana Yoga Sadhana. It is the highest stage of Bhakti Yoga. It is a pinnacle of Vedanta. It is almost as if the Upanishads are condensed in this one verse. So in this verse, Krishna introduces Nirguna Ishvara Dhyanam, Nididhyasanam, where we learn of these lofty words, we learn their meaning. So when we practice Nididhyasanam, it is repeating the words with understanding of their complete deep meaning. We're reminded of the Atma Shatkam by Adi Shankaracharya, where he says, Mano buddhya ahankara chittani naham, nacha shrotra jihve, nacha grana netre, nacha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayuhu, chidananda rupaha, shivoham, shivoham. I am not this mana, buddhi, ahankara or this mind. I am not the tongue or any of the sense organs. I am not all these elements, the earth, air, fire. I am only Shiva, the supreme auspiciousness of the nature of consciousness and bliss. With that, we come to the last speaker of today, Sri Shiv Kumar sir, who will explain verses 4 and 5 of Bhakti Yoga. Over to you, Shiv sir.
Hari Om. Vidya ji beautifully explained the 3rd verse. This verse speaks of worship of Aksharam Brahma and features of Aksharam Brahma. The slide lists again the features: Avyaktam, Achintyam, Anirdeshyam, Sarvagatam, Aprameyam, Achalam, Kutastham, and Dhruvam. Now, the question is, how can one meditate upon such a featureless Brahman? Lord Krishna says, to come to this level of meditation, a person must have qualifications. What are those qualifications? In the fourth verse, Bhagavan says, next slide, please. Sanyam Indra, Sanyam Indriya Gramam, Sarvatra Samabuddhayaha, Te Prapnuvanti Mameva, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. In the next slide, from Tattva Bodha, we know the preparatory qualifications for this Nirguna Ishvara Dhyanam is Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, the fourfold qualifications as enumerated in the slide. Viveka, Vairagyam, Mumukshutvam, Shatka Sampatti, which is a sixfold discipline consisting of Shamaha, Damaha, Uparamaha, Titiksha, Shraddha, that is faith. These fourfold qualifications Krishna emphasizes in this verse. Next slide, please. He says, Indriya Gramam Samniyamya. This means that one must develop control over the Pancha Gnanendriyas or extrovert sense organs from wandering. Thereby, master the mind. Why should we master the mind? Why should we master the extrovert sense organs? What is the reason? In the earlier verse, Bhagavan Krishna had described his nature, that is, Nirguna Ishvaraha, as unobjectifiable, not experienceable as an object. Then, how do we connect to such a Nirguna Ishvara? One way is with Drikdrishya Vivekaha and Neti Neti Prakriya. Incidentally, Neti Neti appears in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Avaduta Gita. Here, we differentiate the seer and the seen and negate the seen as those perceived by any of the sense organs. By this, I am left with I, the observer alone in the entire creation, which none of my sense organs can perceive or sense nor objectify. Nirguna Ishvara is not objectifiable, but exists, not as my body or any anatma in the creation that we can perceive, but as Lord Krishna is not different. I'll repeat. Swamiji says Lord Krishna is not different from me, the observing consciousness. A point extremely difficult to swallow, but as we progress, Bhagwan himself explains, clarifies in the later chapters. Next slide, please. In the 6th chapter of Gita, Lord advises us to focus on the tip of the nose for meditation. This is basically to develop the withdrawal of the sense organs from the external objects. My sense organs should not be extroverted, but introverted to dwell upon I, the subject. The Atma Dhyanam is Nirguna Dhyanam. This Swami Dayananda Saraswati says is meditation upon the meditator. A wonderful quote worth meditating upon. In the next slide, the qualifications, the next qualification in this verse is Sarvatra Samabuddhayaha. Samabuddhi means a balanced mind free from strong ragadvesha for the mind to meditate. The third qualification is sarvabhuta hite rataha, universal love, a commitment to the well-being of all creatures or living beings, well-being of the entire universe. Though this sounds unsurmountable, but a simple way Swamiji suggests is to chant a prayer daily, which results in some punyam. And at the end, sincerely by saying, Samasta loka sukhino bhavantu, Samasta sanmangalani bhavantu, we end up distributing the punyam from the prayer to the well-being of the entire universe. Next slide, please. The qualification for Gnana Yoga or Nirguna Ishvara Dhyanam is called Gnana Yogyata. And this is the highest level of Bhakti. Those who have Gnana Yogyata or Dhyana Yogyata practice Nirguna Ishvara Dhyana. What is the benefit of such a meditation? Te prapnuvanti mam eva. Such Nirguna Ishvara Dhyana Kartaraha or meditators alone attain me, which means they alone attain moksha. In the third verse, Lord said saguna meditators are superior. In this verse, he says that nirguna meditators will attain me. From this, Swami Paramarthanandaji says that we need both. Initially, saguna bhakti to reach nirguna dhyana bhakti. Next slide, please. In the Bhashyam, Bhagavad Pada says nirguna upasakas must go through all four stages, namely karma yoga, upasana yoga for decades, maintaining all values in life and striving for lokahita. Then undergo shravanam and mananam for decades under a guru, finally to reach nididhyasanam. From this, one gains effortless nishtha. If such a upasaka practices nirguna upasana while always maintaining all the qualifications detailed in sadhana chatushraya sampatti, ashtanga yoga, and all the values prescribed in the Gita, namely daivi sampat, then they prapnuvan mam eva. They alone are the one with me. Proceeding to verse 12.5. Next slide, please. Kleshodikatarastesham avyakta asakta chetasam avyakta hi gathir dukkam dehavadbhir avapyate. Next slide, please. Of the three disciplines of Gnana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, Nididhyasanam is Nirguna Dhyanam. In this verse, Bhagavan Krishna emphatically declares that for those who pursue avyakta asakta chetasam, sadhakas committed to avyaktam or formless God, that is Nirguna Dhyanam, klesha adhikatarha, intense difficulties abound. They experience innumerable, almost insurmountable obstacles. A wonderful simile in Kathopanishad says that pursuing Nirguna Ishvara Dhyanam is like walking on a razor's edge. Next slide, please. Why does Krishna say Gnana Yoga is difficult? Because it is avyakta gatihi dukkham. The destination of formless one, Nirguna Brahma, is indeed dukkham, that is difficult to reach. Difficult to reach for whom? Nirguna Dhyanam is extremely difficult for those normal people with dehavadbihi or dehabhimana, strong attachment to one's own annamaya kosha, being obsessed with their physical body, with grossest mind, obsessed with food, clothing, shelter, possessions, etc., being the most common and biggest obstacle for Vedanta. Being attached to the physical body, we get attached to the people around us also. Stronger the bodily attachment, more difficult is Gnana Yoga, or ascending from the formed to the formless. Next slide, please. Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankaracharya in Bhashyam says the end goal for Saguna Ishvara Bhakti and Nirguna Brahma Bhakti is for both is moksha. Human beings normally accustomed to perceiving the world through forms and attributes, the attributeless Brahman, the substratum of the entire creation, not being perceptible to our senses, is a challenge for a seeker to meditate on this nirguna or formless Brahman. For such seekers who have strong identification with their physical bodies, they have be. He suggests starting with Saguna Ishvara Bhakti to purify their mind, cultivate necessary discipline, and once the mind is sufficiently purified and stable, use Saguna Ishvara Bhakti as a stepping stone to gradually transcend to Nirguna Brahma Bhakti or Nirguna Upasana. The ultimate goal for any seeker is the realization that one's true self, that is Atman, is not different from Brahman. And on this, being a dhrudam or firm realization, they attain moksha. Next slide, please. Concluding, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, a systematic study. Next slide, please. Gaining knowledge, offering ignorance into the fire of knowledge, converting it into conviction, and assimilating this wisdom is puja or worship. Bhakti Yoga is presented in 5 levels. In the 5th stage, Gnana Yoga, we transcend from choice between path of Bhakti Marga or Gnana Marga, depends on individual's nature, preferences, and depth of inclination. Friends, let me end with an example by Swami Anubhavanandaji. Why do we not succeed in our pursuit? He says, because we are not stable. A simile for this. A man went digging for water. He dug 2 feet, no water. He changes location and digs, no water. This goes on. Instead of this, if he were to continue to dig in one place, he will strike water. Hence, with this simile, I have no doubt in pursuing Gnana Yoga. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Krishna.
Thank you very much, Shiv sir, for that excellent and very detailed, very nicely explained 2 verses. I think you have given us so much knowledge. Thank you. With that, actually, as Shiv sir mentioned, and Shankaracharya says that it takes decades of karma yoga, decades of upasana yoga. So the path is long and difficult, but Lord Krishna himself gives us the assurance that we can attain Jivan Mukti in this lifetime itself. And the best part about spiritual study is that on our goal, so all our spiritual pursuits are personal, whatever we're doing. But during our spiritual progress, we become a boon to the world, because a spiritual seeker is mastering his mind and sense organs. He has moved beyond his deha abhimana, his limited likes, dislikes, raga, dvesha, ahankara, mamakara. He is practicing sarvatra samabuddhaya. he is able to respect everyone and everything in this universe. For every uh, every single atom and the largest being has their own place in the universe, and this bhakta is able to maintain his equanimity no matter what is happening around the world, because he is so seated in his bhakti. And sarva bhuta hite rataha, so he is concerned about the welfare and committed to bringing it about. So while as Dr. Hegde sir had mentioned in the last class, that it is our need to pursue karma yoga, it is our need to pursue upasana yoga. During this pursuit, we just happen to help everyone else around, and that I think is the greatest material benefit of our spiritual pursuit. So anchored in this Brahman, and through practicing this entire range of spiritual sadhana centered in bhakti, a spiritual seeker will attain moksha. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Lord Krishna is presenting Bhakti Yoga in 5 levels in the 12th chapter. Bhakti will help us loosen our hold on Jiva Bhava, body consciousness, Ahankara. We must dig deeper, as Shiv Kumarji said, while holding on to God always. We cannot compare each other's sadhanas, but rather respect each other's practices. Thank you, dear Panaga, and all the speakers. Param Vedanta appreciates its listeners. Let us chant. We meet on 28th of Feb for our next session on Atma Bodha, session 12. Let us chant the concluding prayers. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.